I want the American people to know that we are declaring war on immigration fraud.
America, we've got bombshell evidence that I've been telling you guys for months. Federal agents conducted a massive immigration fraud sweep in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and found fraud in nearly 50% of the cases they investigated. We're talking about fake death certificates, polyamorous marriages, and sons of known terrorists living freely in Ilhan Omar's district through marriage fraud.
Over the course of the operation, our officers found indication of fraud, non-compliance, or public safety and national security concerns in nearly a little less than 50% of the cases interviewed.
What is up, guys? Tyson Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This is exactly what happens when you have sanctuary policies and politicians who care more about virtue signaling than protecting American citizens. The numbers don't lie here, and they're absolutely staggering. Let me break down what Operation Twin Shield uncovered. Federal agents visited over 1,000 homes in Minneapolis, St. Paul over just 10 days. Out of 900 cases they were able to investigate, they found 275 cases of suspected fraud. That is a 30% fraud rate, folks, but it gets worse.
Focusing on a list of over 1,000 target cases involving more than 900 individuals, our officers encountered blatant marriage fraud, visa overstays, people claiming to work at businesses that can't be found, forged documents, abuse of the H-1B visa system, abuse of the F-1 visas, and many other discrepancies.
This wasn't just paperwork violations. We're talking about a full criminal enterprise, fake businesses, forged documents, visa abuse, and marriage fraud on an industrial scale. And here's the kicker. This is happening in the same district that elected Ilhan Omar, who allegedly married her own brother for citizenship purposes. The director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services said what they found should shock all America. Well, it doesn't shock me, and it shouldn't shock you either. This is what happens when you have decades of catch and release policies and sanctuary city nonsense. Let me tell you about some of the specific cases they uncovered, because this stuff is absolutely wild. First case, a Kenyan immigrant paid $100 for a fake death certificate claiming his wife was dead so he could marry an American for citizenship.
In another, an individual admitted to obtaining a fake death certificate in Kenya for just $100 to prove he was no longer married. In reality, his wife is alive, living here in Minneapolis, and is the mother of 5 of his children. And incidentally, he has another wife living in Sweden with whom he has an additional 3 children.
So this guy has one wife in Minneapolis with 5 kids, the other wife in Sweden with 3 kids, and now he's trying to marry a third American woman for citizenship. This is the family reunification that Democrats keep talking about, folks. But it gets worse. They found the son of a known terrorist on the no-fly list that had overstated visa and was committing marriage fraud.
In one case, officers identified an alien who had overstayed his visa waiver, who was the son of a known or suspected terrorist on the no-fly list. He had previously been found to have engaged in marriage fraud, which resulted in the denial of several immigration benefit requests. He was arrested and is now presently being returned to his country of origin.
Think about this. While we're taking our shoes off at airports, the children of terrorists are setting up shop in American cities through fraudulent marriages. How many others are out there that we haven't caught yet? And here's what really gets me fired up. They found cases of elderly Americans being victimized by these fraudsters. One elderly woman was conned into a sham marriage and now lives in fear of retaliation.
And finally, I wanted to note, in one case, an alien engaged in marriage fraud by taking advantage of an elderly U.S. citizen spouse, including threats and severe neglect. The American spouse was able to divorce the alien with the help of her family and caregivers, but the family still lives in fear of retaliation from the alien over the failed marriage fraud scam.
This is what happens when we don't properly vet people coming into our country. American citizens become victims in their own homeland. This elderly woman and her family are living in fear because our own immigration system failed them. The director made it clear these aren't victimless crimes.
Every case of fraud we uncover damages our national security, undermines the integrity of our immigration system, and as I just gave you an example, has real consequences.
But here's what's really telling about the state of Minnesota's sanctuary policies. Federal agents were harassed and threatened while trying to do their jobs. The federal agents conducting these operations faced harassment, threats, and had police called on them while they were trying to investigate immigration fraud. One resident was so unsafe they had to call the cops off the site visit entirely.
I also want to touch briefly on the reception our officers received in the field. They were harassed, threatened, accused of being scammers, and even had the police called on them.
And here's the connection to Minnesota's sanctuary policies. When asked if sanctuary policies played a role in fraud, the director was diplomatic but clear.
I can just say, speaking with our officers out here, we had great cooperation among our federal partners, and that's where the cooperation ended. Clearly, the sanctuary policies did lead to officers having to rely on their fellow federal colleagues in order to maintain officer safety.
Translation: local law enforcement won't help because of sanctuary policies. Federal agents had to rely on other federal agents because Minnesota politicians have tied the hands of local police. This operation in Minneapolis was just the beginning. The director made it clear that similar operations are coming to cities across America.
Operation Twin Shield was a major enforcement operation, and we will be bringing many more efforts like this to cities across the country.
When asked which cities would be next, his response was perfect. Any city should be prepared to be the next one. And here's why Minnesota was chosen first. The data shows concerning patterns of fraud, but as the director said, there are red flags everywhere.
We knew Minneapolis and St. Paul were a good place to start.
Under Trump's leadership, we finally have an administration that's serious about immigration fraud. The director's words were crystal clear here.
I want the American people to know that we are declaring war on immigration fraud. We will continue to pursue those who seek to abuse our immigration system using every tool at our disposal.
This is exactly what we voted for, America. No more catch and release. No more looking the other way while criminals abuse our immigration system. No more putting the interest of illegal immigrants instead of American citizens. The timing of this operation is also significant. It comes right as the DOJ is suing Minnesota over their sanctuary policies.
The state of Minnesota, along with the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, are being sued over immigration enforcement policies.
U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced that 34-page lawsuit saying, quote, Minnesota officials, are jeopardizing the safety of their own citizens.
The message is clear. Sanctuary policies enable fraud, and the Trump administration isn't going to tolerate this crap anymore. America, this story perfectly illustrates everything we've been telling you about our broken immigration system. When federal agents can find fraud in 50% of the cases they investigate, that's not a few bad apples. That is a systematic failure. We have the son of a terrorist living freely through marriage fraud. We have polygamists with multiple wives across different countries gaming our system. We have elderly Americans being victimized and living in fear. And we have local politicians who care more about protecting criminals than American citizens.
Listen, at the end of the day, this is what the government should be doing. We have a responsibility to keep this system legitimate. And when you see what has been uncovered by these diligent officers over the past 2 weeks, less than 2 week period, that's only the tip of the iceberg to what we're actually dealing with when it comes to immigration fraud.
If Minneapolis has a 50% fraud rate, what are we going to find in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago? The good news is we finally have leadership that's willing to do something about it. Operation Twin Shield is expanding nationwide, and every sanctuary city should be worried. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.